sleepy farming town of Kelly, Kentucky, nestled within rolling hills and thick woods. An ordinary evening in August of 1955 unraveled into something extraordinary and horrifying. A farm stood as a modest haven amidst the rural expanse, its tobacco fields stretching under a cloudless, moonlit sky. That night, a family gathering had brought laughter and the comfort of kinship into a small farmhouse. But peace is a fragile thing, and in the quiet of night, it was shattered with a scream. I recently had the pleasure of interviewing the foremost authority on the Ghost and Me podcast, which is my new weekly podcast of what has become known as the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins case or encounter. Author Geraldine Sutton Stith, the daughter of Cecil Lucky Sutton, who was present and intimately involved with the encounter itself. I will link the full interview in the description as well as at the end of the video, because it's truly a fascinating one and one that I was honored to be a part of along with my co-host Bob. With that being said, this video is a deep dive into the story itself, pulling from a variety of sources, but mostly Geraldine herself. Now, let us begin. The year was 1955, in a place called Kelly, Kentucky. Kelly, a small town by any standards, was especially small at that time, boasting about 150 residents or so, with the main occupation of them all being farming. It was here that Glennie Langford, the grandmother of Geraldine and the mother of Cecil, owned a small farm measuring about 27 acres in size. The family, along with most, were poor but proud farmers. They grew tobacco and had several livestock animals there on the farm. Living alongside Glennie was her son Jesse and his wife Elaine, who helped run the farm with their 3 children: Mark, age 12, Lonnie, age 10, and Mary, who was 7. Jesse had recently came home from the Korean War and hadn't been home longer than a year or so. Adjusting back to civilian life had been hard for him, but working on the farm and looking after his family certainly helped. The particular weekend just so happened to coincide with the visit of Cecil and his first wife, Vera, as well as their friends, Billy Ray and June Taylor, who were stationed in Evansville. They worked for a carnival at that time, and it just so happened to be near enough to visit. A break from work sounded nice, and who doesn't love some quality time with family and friends, alongside some home cooking? So they would drive to the farm and spend Friday and Saturday together, enjoying the weekend. That Sunday, with Monday and their inevitable return to work incoming, the family was doing their best to enjoy the time that they had left together. Glennie, who was a very religious woman who had gone to a church service earlier in the day, was returning home. Together, the family ate supper and started to play cards after they had finished eating. The family didn't have plumbing at the farmhouse, so Billy Ray had gone out to the well to get some water. Stepping outside with pail in hand, he soon hears something above him, something strange. There in the sky before him, he sees a silver, oval-shaped object with what he would later call the colors of the rainbow flowing behind it. Perplexed, he watches for a few seconds. The object, roughly 40 feet in the air or so, goes across the sky and then back behind the house itself and into the back field. It then slowly descends and lands in the back gully, going completely out of Billy Ray's sight. Not knowing what to make of what he had just seen, Billy Ray rushes into the house and starts telling everyone about what he had saw. Lenny tries to reason with him, telling him that he probably had just seen a shooting star, to which he would reply with, "No, I know what a shooting star is, and this was not it." There had been meteor showers going on earlier in the month, but not at this particular time. Cecil, noticing that Billy Ray was as white as a ghost and sweating profusely, asked him to come with him back outside and explain to him exactly what he had seen. With both men now standing outside, after Billy Ray motions to where the object had been and described it to Cecil, or better known as Lucky, Lucky then tells Billy Ray that they should go look in the back field, that whatever it was probably gone, and that after they look and see, that they should go back inside and enjoy what was left of the evening. But to both men's shock and amazement, as they stepped behind the house, headed towards the field, before their very eyes, emerging from that field, was a small being. But this being is unlike anything they've ever seen before. And these were men who were very familiar with wildlife, especially around Kentucky. It was about 3.5 feet tall. It had a big round head, large glowing eyes, big pointed ears, and long gangly arms that almost touched the ground. The being itself isn't walking with its legs, but rather it's floating above the grass headed towards them. Awestruck for a few seconds as the creature approaches them, the two then quickly run back to the house and rush inside, slamming the door behind them. Seeing the men rush inside startles the rest of the family, with most of them asking just what was wrong with them two. But as the men try to explain the seriousness of the situation, most of them think it was just some kind of joke. Considering these were people in their late teens and early 20s, most of the adults anyways, it wouldn't have been totally out of the realm of possibility for someone to pull a prank. However, they would quickly see that this was indeed not the case. Glennie, deciding that she had heard enough, told everyone that the children needed to get to bed. A short while later, after laying them down to sleep, she sees Cecil standing at the front door next to Billy Ray. One has a shotgun, and one has a rifle. Realizing that this wasn't some kind of prank, Glennie would ask Billy Ray, "Just what exactly did you see?" He would then tell her that, "Miss Glennie, I hope it's something that you never have to see." So she squats down there beside the two. It's a quiet night. There's a full moon, and its light is illuminating everything surrounding this small farmhouse. With this light, you can see nearly everything, and there's an obvious tension. Everyone there is certainly on edge, especially Billy Ray, who seems to be jumping at every sound made in the shadows. While Glennie sits there hearing the banter between everyone, she suddenly sees something that shakes her to her core. There before her very eyes, she sees this small entity rounding the corner of the house. Its eyes are massive and glowing. As a matter of fact, its whole body seems bioluminescent. And as most of us would do, she lets out a blood-curdling scream, shattering the quiet tension that had previously existed within the stillness of this strange night. Everybody quickly comes running to where she's at. She had been so startled that the shock had caused her to fall to the floor. Cecil, or Lucky, quickly helps her up, and she frantically tells him that, "I just saw it. There is something out here." As Glennie tries to explain what she saw in detail, her explanation is soon cut short by the rapturous sound of a gun being fired. Running to the source, they find Jesse, and he shot one through the window of the house. Billy Ray goes rushing out the front door, looking for anything out of the ordinary that could be a threat. As he's standing there below the little stoop over the front door, everyone else watching him soon sees a little clawed hand descend from the top of the stoop. This clawed hand then seems to try and grab his hair. As the others scream, before the hand can grab him, Lucky runs and grabs Billy Ray and pulls him into the house. He then rushes outside with his gun. There on top of the stoop is one of these large-eyed beings. Without hesitation, being a country boy and all, Lucky raises his gun and shoots this creature. Bizarrely, however, when it's shot, he hears the impact and sees the creature roll. But instead of falling off the stoop, it slowly floats down to the ground instead. Following the shooting of this first creature, someone else screams that there's another one in the tree beside him. Turning around, Lucky then sees another one of these odd entities on one of the large tree's branches. He then quickly acts again, and he shoots. He hits it, and he hears the impact. When he hits it, as with the first one, it makes a pinging sound, like the bullet has hit something metallic. The creature then floats to the ground, rolls, and scurries off into the nearby brush. They don't know what these things are. They're certainly not dying. They're getting up and rolling away. So what are they to do? What else can they do? All of the commotion, of course, woke the children up out of their sleep, and all the kids as well have now seen these creatures alongside the adults, except for the youngest, June. She's absolutely petrified. She refuses to look. She's crying. She's screaming and is hiding in the corner of the living room. With all the children crying, these things, these creatures, start coming up to the windows and doors. The family, although fear-struck, do notice that if they keep the lights on, the creatures seem to stay in the darker shadows outside. That momentarily seems to keep them away from the house, but they seem to still keep coming up. Not knowing exactly what to do from here, Lenny suggests to Lucky that, well, if we quit shooting, maybe they'll stop coming up to the windows and doors. And Lucky replies with, "Mom, I don't know. I don't know what these things are, and I'm not about to let them in the house to find out." To add to the weirdness of the situation, when these beings would come up to the house, they had their little hands up in the air, almost as if they were surrendering, like they knew what that meant. Lenny even told Lucky that maybe something's wrong. They've got their hands up in the air. But Lucky would say that, "I don't care, Mom. We're not letting them in. We don't know what these are." And honestly, who can blame him? As this episode continued, Lucky tried to keep everyone calm. He told them, "We're going to Hopkinsville. We're going to try and get help, and this is going to be okay." As he got them all quiet, and just as he thought it was the right time to run out the door, he would freeze in his tracks. They all then would hear something peculiar, what they believed to be one of the creatures going across the tin roof. As it went across, its nails were clicking and scratching, making everyone's skin crawl and their hair stand on end. June started screaming again, and then all of the kids began crying. Vera asked Lucky, "What are we gonna do?" And he would tell her, "Listen, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get help. Just calm down." It takes some time, but he once again manages to calm everyone down yet again. He then tells Billy Ray, "Let's go out the back and take a quick look." So the two step out into the yard, which is still glowing with the radiant light of the full moon. The two men are looking around, guns in hand. Billy Ray then turns around and grabs Lucky's arm and says, "Look, there's one going up the side of the house." There before the men was indeed one of the oddities climbing up the house, headed toward the roof. Lucky then aimed his shotgun and pulled the trigger. He was successful in hitting one of these things again. It fell to the ground, then popped up and floated from the back of the house over to a fence post about 40 feet away. Lucky then fires and hits this one a second time. Seeing this really gave the men pause. This thing floated in front of them across the yard like it defied the laws of physics. Lucky then tells Billy Ray, "Let's get back in the house and let's try to get out of here. Just don't tell everyone what you saw." And he more than likely was saying this as to not further upset the family. However, when they go back inside, of course everyone inside had heard the gunshots. Glennie, demanding to know, asks, "What did you just shoot at?" With Lucky replying, "It's okay." And Billy Ray chiming in as well, "We just had to shoot one of them off the house. But it's okay. We're okay." After the family is settled again, the night seems to get quiet. Nothing comes up to the windows or the doors. It's almost an eerie stillness. Lucky had thought maybe when he shot that one, that it had finally been injured. When it finally got to the fence post, when he had shot it again, it fell off. This time, it didn't scurry off as quickly as before, so he was thinking maybe he had finally got one. Feeling like things had calmed down enough, everyone all together would rush to their trucks, load up in them, and start the trip straight to Hopkinsville, looking nervously behind them the whole way. They would make it there to the small police station in the middle of the night. Again, the year is 1955. There's just one officer on duty, and suddenly, 11 people, ages 7 to 50, burst in, utterly terrified. The officer is just awestruck. They're all trying to explain what happened. The officer tries to make sense of it all and says, "Wait a minute, you're telling me that you're shooting little men at your farm?" To which Lucky responds with, "You don't understand what I'm trying to tell you." The officer, telling them all to calm down, says that he's going to call the chief. He dials on the phone and soon is on the line with Chief Russell Greenwell. He tells him, "Call Fort Campbell Army Base, which was about 10 miles from Hopkinsville. Call the newspaper and see if you can get every state trooper that's out tonight. Find them and get them to Kelly. We're going to see what's really going on." The chief's wife overhears all of this too, so she gets up and goes with him. They then head to the station as well. When they arrive, they see 11 terrified people. It's obvious that something has happened. The chief and his wife try to calm them. Within due time, all the additional authorities would arrive. By the time they do, there's approximately 25 people, including the police, military, and reporters. There's soon a caravan of vehicles now headed to the small town of Kelly in the dead of this strange night. When they all arrive at the farm, they step out of their vehicles and immediately feel that something is off. The place, the overall environment, just feels creepy. As they search, some of the police officers see a glowing substance on the ground around the back of the house. It was believed to be the spot where Lucky had shot one of the creatures. They run back there to look, but when they get close, the glow disappears. They call Chief Greenwell over, and he too looks at the spot. He says, "Well, I don't see any glow, but there's evidence that the grass is different in that spot than it is around it." They continue searching for about 2 to 3 hours, but nothing could be found. Glennie was beside herself. She was afraid to go back in the house. The chief would go up to her and say, "Miss Glennie, I'm so sorry, but there's nothing here. Nothing except for evidence that y'all did some shooting." And indeed, rifle and shotgun shells were all over the outside of the house, and even in the inside of the house. The woodwork was shot up. Screens were shot through. There was nothing there to show what they had shot at. So with nothing left to do, the authorities would go ahead and leave. Glennie was left there with the rest of the family, with nobody else to help if these things came back, and she was truly hoping that they wouldn't return. Once the family is back inside, it does take some time yet again, but the kids eventually settle down and finally head back to bed. Lucky sits in a rocking chair beside Glennie, with a shotgun across his lap. They're all exhausted, both physically and mentally. Glennie closes her eyes, trying to get some rest. But then, something, and she's not sure what, causes her to open them yet again. There before her, to her horror, one of these creatures is yet again at the window. Thinking that she's just tired and possibly hallucinating, she then closes her eyes again. But when she opens them for a second time, and this being is still standing there, it's at this time that she screams to Lucky that they're back. Everyone then jumps up. Once again, they're trying to keep these creatures out of the house. And these efforts would continue until around 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning. But as the family struggled, with the morning sun starting to come up, the creatures seemingly out of nowhere disappeared. In the words of Geraldine Sutton Stith,
"So sure enough, when that bright sunshine came up, they disappeared. Well, my dad got the family down, and he told them all. He says, listen, he says, I heard them last night. They were laughing at us. No good can come of this, so don't even say another word about it. We're just going to have to go on with our lives, forget this ever happened." And Vera asked him, says, well, how are we supposed to forget this? He says, I know it's going to be hard. I don't know, but we got to forget this happened.
What followed the events of August 21st of 1955 would effectively be a circus of unwanted publicity and tourism. a massive amount of people would descend upon the Sutton farm and make this case infamous, for better or for worse.
And so, word got out. I mean, it had gotten out. It didn't take long at all. Everybody from everywhere was coming from everywhere, wanting to see the little beings and camping out in the yard and wanting to talk to the family. And they got no rest. Of course, my dad and Billy Ray and the girls had to go back to work. They were able to stay another day or two, but then they had to leave, and my grandmother was going to be left there, her 3 kids, my Uncle JC and Aunt Eileen. Would they be able to take care of, these things if they were to come back? Because that was the big fear. Would they come back? Why were they there in the first place? And if they didn't get what they wanted the first time, would they come back to get it? That was a fear in Kelly. People that lived around there had this fear. My mom lived in Kelly with her first husband and 7 kids at the time. And she says it was terrifying. Everyone was scared. Well, my grandmother thought the best of it, and she sold the farm within 2 weeks and moved into Hopkinsville to an apartment complex. So did my Uncle JC and Aunt Eileen. Got out of there because she was afraid. She didn't know what else to do. She didn't want to leave her farm, but, she was terrified.
Geraldine herself goes in depth not only of the encounter itself, but lots of additional details surrounding it, as well as the circus that followed, in my interview with her on the Ghost in Me podcast, which I'll link here as well as in the description below. I would further explain the details, but she just adds so much herself that it would be an injustice not to let you hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. What is ultimately important to remember is that this was a family. They didn't ask for this to happen. They didn't seek financial compensation or try to make a spectacle in order to profit in any way. They simply were overwhelmed by what they were experiencing together and sought help through appropriate means. The publicity, or potential publicity, would have been an afterthought. Again, Geraldine very much goes in depth on this, as well as how the night affected her father as well as other members of her family in our interview. And between the interview, as well as diving into some of Geraldine's books surrounding the case and doing my own research online, I did find another case that is eerily similar in some respects, albeit not in Appalachia. I wanted to share it with you before giving my thoughts on the case as a whole. In July of 1692, amidst the turmoil of the Salem witch trials, the town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, experienced a series of mysterious events that left its residents both alarmed and perplexed. For approximately 2 weeks, the town was reportedly besieged by enigmatic figures believed to be the spectral apparitions of indigenous people and Frenchmen. Emerging from the swamps and cornfields, these entities approached the local garrison, often in groups. Attempts to defend against them proved futile. Firearms frequently misfired, and when they did discharge, bullets seemed to have no effect. The intruders spoke in an unfamiliar language, and while they carried functional weapons, or so it seemed, evident later by bullets found later embedded in trees, they caused no physical harm to the townspeople. The situation escalated to the point where Major Samuel Appleton of Ipswich dispatched approximately 60 men on July 18th to assist Gloucester during these inexplicable disturbances. Reverend John Emerson of Gloucester documented these occurrences in a letter to Cotton Mather, suggesting that the town's afflictions were the work of the devil and his agents, appearing as small creatures with large eyes and big ears, rather than tangible French and indigenous attackers. Mather, in his work Magnalia Christi Americana, noted that even a decade later, respected individuals in the region believed these events were a significant manifestation of the unseen world. This account, among others, indicates the pervasive atmosphere of fear and superstition that characterized the period, leading communities to interpret unexplained phenomena as supernatural threats. Other than the apparitions appearing as alleged people, others described the beings as small devils with large eyes and large ears, a glaring similarity to the Kelly Hopkinsville case that I've covered here today. Albeit not completely the same, I did find it noteworthy enough to mention. I also don't believe that the creatures experienced by Geraldine's family members wielded any sort of weapons, at least from what we know. While I am leaving many details to Geraldine herself, and for good reason, including myths and misconceptions about the case, all of which, again, we have covered on the Ghost in Me podcast episode with her, as well as in her books, which I'll tell you about here shortly, I did want to share my thoughts on the case as a whole, in no particular order. I remember hearing about the case from my good friend Bob, as well as watching the show Hellier, and coincidentally, when we were visiting the area together about 2 years ago, for reasons that were unrelated to the case itself, we did end up finding the coordinates of where the farm was located, and albeit it was at night, we did find ourselves at the exact location where the goblin encounter took place, which was surreal to say the least. I'm sure lots has changed since 1955, but there in the flesh, and to try to put yourself in the shoes of the family who endured the event, it really just adds another layer to this incredible story that I can't truly put into words. And even with much development taking place over the decades, the area of where the farm is located is still extremely rural, with one having to take several back roads to even find its location. Something that I noticed in Geraldine's recounting of the story was the metallic sound, or pinging, of the bullets as they hit the creatures, or as most refer to them now, as goblins. Was this perhaps due to some kind of force field or armor they had? That's where my mind tends to wander. And if this was the case, did they perhaps have that armor weakened as a result of multiple shots, as with Lucky shooting the other goblin for a second time near the post? They did also mention that these things were bioluminescent, that they seemed to have a sort of glow about them. But if perhaps they weren't truly glowing, could they maybe have had metallic skin or armor on perhaps? This metallic coating, or what have you, could have been reflecting the glow of the full moonlight that night. It would explain the pinging sounds. However, I tend to lean into it could have been a bit of both, because during the research with the authorities, several cops saw a glowing residue near where the goblin had been shot, near the post for the second time. That leads me to believe that maybe they could have had glowing blood, although that's just mere speculation on my part. I mean, if they were bioluminescent, it would only make sense, right? And with the concept of a force field fresh in our minds, did these goblins have some sort of telekinetic abilities? I mean, they were floating instead of falling, as if they defied the laws of physics themselves. Was this perhaps due to acute mental abilities? Or was it the result of foreign technology that we're just not aware of yet? When the creatures initially hid after their arrival, and then hid after the first interaction, and then after, I asked Geraldine if there were or are any caves where the farm is, and albeit she didn't know, there have been rumors of people finding goblin-like beings in the caves throughout Appalachia, which is a terrifying prospect indeed, to think that these things could ultimately perhaps be interconnected. With that being said, are these goblins, these entities, a manifestation of what we call the phenomenon, for lack of a better term, the mysterious supernatural force that seems to present itself just beyond the veil of our conscious minds? only seeping through for a brief time, and that very said veil is thinner than normal. Are they interdimensional creatures coming from another plane of existence? Or are they, as many believe them to be, given the unidentified flying object that Billy Ray saw, extraterrestrial in nature? Are they from another planet? All interesting thoughts to ponder, no doubt, as we've let our minds run wild and be immersed in this perplexing case. I wonder why the goblins approached the family as if they were surrendering, but then ultimately would end up scaling the house and then trying to grab Billy Ray from the stoop above the porch. Did they need help? Were they trying to convey this via their hands up signaling, or were they trying to lure the family into a false sense of security? Also, I do have to say, the thought of the little clawed hand and then the clanking of one on top of the roof, both of those instances are so creepy to me. Now, the authorities did do a thorough search that very morning, using both men on the ground as well as, I believe, helicopters, doing grid searches. But they didn't find any creatures themselves, albeit allegedly they found evidence of their existence, which ties into a whole other alien conspiracy rabbit hole. Geraldine goes extensively into this in several of her books, but most recently in the Kelly Green Men Alien Legacy Revisited, where she adds numerous details as well as photos of the alleged footprints found of the creatures. I can't stress that there's only so much I can add without mentioning both my interview with Geraldine as well as her books. She truly is the foremost authority on the case itself, and I find it very admirable just how much effort she puts into keeping what has become local Kentucky folklore now very much alive, for not only the folklore aspect, but her family's history. In conclusion, remember that this was a family. They didn't ask for what happened to them. Now, I wanted to quickly mention that Geraldine has a new book with a lot more information and historical references coming out very soon, and it should be available on Amazon, as well as most, if not all, main book-selling platforms. She also will be selling it via her Etsy shop, which is Aliens and Goblins, and that'll be for autographed copies. Now, following our interview, I actually ordered my own goblin from her store, and I just so happened to get it today, which is also when I happened to finish this script and recorded it for you folks now. Mine's name is Lucky, which is very cool, because that was Geraldine's dad's nickname, as you guys know from the story itself, and she included a copy of her book for me as well. So I know I've already reached out to you personally, but if you're watching this, thank you very much, Geraldine, for your time and your effort, and for this little guy as well as the book and photograph. I really and truly appreciate it. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but definitely go check out Geraldine's store and her books as well, and our interview together on the Ghost in Me podcast, which I now do weekly episodes on, delving into all sorts of high strangeness. I did also want to thank Phobicon for some of the artwork used in this video. Definitely support him and go show his videos some love, and subscribe while you're at it. You can also purchase my books, which Volume 3 of Stories from the Archives is coming very soon. It'll be available either on Amazon, Beyond the Fray Publishing, or you can order an autographed copy or copies from me at mysteryarchives.myshopify.com. I've also added some new merchandise and will continue to do so as the content and the memes evolve as they do. Please also follow me on all my other platforms and join our Discord here, and I'll also link it below in the description. And last but not least, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, share it around, and leave me a comment letting me know about what you thought, both here and on the podcast video too. Thank you guys for all of your support and patience. I hope this video, although a little different, was still something that you enjoyed, and I'll see you again very soon with some more brand new content. As always, this has been Cody here at Mystery Archives. make sure to stay safe out there from goblins and other spooky things. And take care.